It's time to review the top 10 Mineplex minigames of the current era. In other words, what they've got on the server. I think because of the way I've been reviewing the Mineplex review videos up to this point, I think I'd figure I might as well continue the trend of making smaller videos rather than just making one like hour-long Mineplex review video. So today's Mineplex review is going to be about the top 10 minigames. Now the important thing to know here is these are my personal preferences of the game as a whole. I'll be basing my thoughts about each minigame off of a few different categories. First of all, the actual game, I'm going to be basing it off of the kits, whether they're good or not, the actual premise of the game, and whether I enjoy the game or not, and if the game is well set up by Mineplex or well executed, depending on if it comes from somewhere else or not. So, yeah, let's dive right into it with number 10. So this is an interesting place to start off with. My number 10 option is Wither Assault. And this is one of the newest games, this is the newest arcade game there is to date. And it's technically still in beta, but I'm still going to add it here because I really think it's definitely got an interesting premise. The description is, according to the Mineplex website, there are two teams, the humans and withers. The humans must do their best to hide from the withers so that their lives do not run out. The withers fly around and use abilities to kill all humans. I really like the premise of this game, and I think it's got some seriously good potential, assuming Mineplex actually follows through with working on it. The only problem with it, I'd say, at current is the fact that humans are extremely underpowered. They can't kill the withers, so they have to keep running around, and usually if the withers are smart enough, they're going to probably be able to kill them relatively easily. So that might be my only thing with this. However, I think Mineplex has a really good shot at improving it. It's it's definitely an original concept, so it's definitely got some room for improvement and got a good future in mind. Well, this choice might upset a few people, but my number 9 choice is survival games. And the reason is, I don't know, I mean, for one thing, the survival games update that we just had kind of decreased my rating. It might have been a bit higher if they hadn't done it, but if you'd like my true opinions on the update itself, go watch the review, which is, I think, is on my list of Joe Reviews episodes. But first, let's take a look at the description. This 20-player game, which is actually 24, I'm pretty sure, is inspired by the Hunger Games, where all players must gather loot from chests that are scattered around the map. These chests usually contain food, weaponry, armory, and that can be used to kill other players. When you first spawn, all 24 players are transported to the middle of the map in a circle, surrounded by a cornucopia which contains lots of chests. You can either take loot from these chests at the start, or run out into the unknown gathering loot from other chests. The goal is to be the last player alive. There are no teams in this game, and the kits are Barbarian, Necromancer, Bomber, Beastmaster, Assassin, Horseman, Brawler, Archer, Knight, and Axeman. Whew, there's quite a lot. And like I said, the latest update to this game kind of ruined it, and it's not really an original game, obviously. There are many different servers that have this, including other single-player maps that people have created. So it's not very original, but it's still nice that they've added it. And no, this isn't what started Mineplex off, so I will give them credit to that. I would say that they've got a lack of maps as well. I know that we did just add a couple new ones, but there's still I think there's only 6. I'd like to see a few more just to give some more variety. I mean, once you get all these maps down in your head, they get very bland and kind of lose the challenge. I know they're hard to build, but they probably should get to work on that. Well, without the other big elephant in the room. I'm looking at you, clans. But After that, I think that it's pretty good. I'd say it's set up relatively well. I do know that a lot of people like the frost, and when that was removed, lots of people were kind of upset with that. That was one of the original features. There's still some relatively original features. However, I think this latest update may have kind of stabilized those. So, I mean, the compass, meh, that's like the worst part of the whole update thing. Other than that, I don't really think there's too much else to say. It's pretty fun, but it's pretty frustrating. But then again, really, all these games could be considered frustrating if you don't know how to play with them. So, I mean, it's more of just a personal preference. Super Spleef's description is that the main objective of this game is to eliminate all other players by either knocking them out of the map or breaking the blocks on the ground so that they fall down into the void. The last player alive will win the game. Now, this game actually went through a huge revamp, which Mineplex, as far as I know, never actually published any update changelogs for. So, beyond maybe the obvious changes of redoing the kits, I don't really know what else they did. The current kits are Snowballer, Brawler, and Archer. I don't even remember what the old kits were, however I do remember the free kit was equipped with an axe of some sort, and I think was used to knock the players off. But beyond that, it is a copy and paste concept, as another couple games that we'll get to further on the list. However, I think they've executed it pretty well. The kits definitely work very well together, and the maps look nice. If I'd have to say there's one thing about Mineplex that's relatively well, is their maps are nice, even if survival games doesn't have many. There's really not too much else for me to see here, but it is a fun game to play. Number 7, we have Runner. And the description of this game states that players in this game will spawn around a small island in the map that is made of clay and has multiple layers. As you run, blocks will fall beneath you. The only way you can die is by falling out of the map into the void, and just like the last few, the last player alive wins. The kits in this game are Jumper, Archer, and Frosty. And like Super Spleef and survival games, this is also a copy and paste concept game. However, it is slightly different as that it doesn't use TNT, like as in TNT Run, which can be found on Hypixel and in single-player maps. The kits are pretty well set up. I have Jumper and Archer. Honestly, I think those are the best two. Frosty's meh. I haven't tried it, but I think the concept is pretty meh, personally. The map style is one of the most intriguing things about this game. It's definitely unique the way it uses the clay and makes very simplistic designs. I think I like it compared to maybe, complex arenas like all their other maps are. It also allows maps to be made relatively quickly, so you've got a good selection when it comes to playing the game. And I definitely would think that's evident here. So, I mean, they definitely probably don't need to do any improvements with this. It's pretty solid at the moment, just the fact that it's a copy and paste concept. Next up on the list, we have Dragon Escape, and it's a parkour-based game where you must make your way through a parkour course while trying to run from Douglas the Dragon. Douglas makes his way through the parkour, able to kill anyone in his path, and he will also demolish the path, creating absolutely chaotic fun. You will win the game by completing the parkour or getting farthest player along the course. The kits are Jumper, Disruptor, Warper, and the achievement kit is Digger. There are no teams in this game. Now, from my experience, this does seem like a pretty original concept, not necessarily being escaped, but the way it's executed here is very nice. I think they've done an excellent job using the Ender Dragons to its advantage, and sending them after the path is pretty nice. And this is the only parkour oriented game, I'd say, if you exclude maybe some of their specials like the Christmas or Halloween games. But I think they've executed right here. There's only 3 maps, however, but they're all really nicely built, and they are large, so I will admit that they're not exactly easy to build. But I also think the kits are pretty good. They seem all relatively fair from what I've seen, and I've really got no problems with it. This is a pretty good game overall. However, if there's one complaint I'd have to lodge at it is, before I got my new computer, this game was horrendously laggy, particularly on the Pirate Bay map. I'm not sure if it's because of all the blocks getting destroyed, or if it's just because of the way the coding is set up, but this is probably one of Mineplex's laggiest games, beyond UHC, which, I mean, everybody knows is so laggy. It's so bad. But, I mean, it's still a pretty solid game on its own. Here's an interesting place to go next. Number 5, we have Draw My Thing. This classic game can have up to 8 players at once, and each person gets 2 turns at drawing the word that they are given on a large drawing canvas made of wool. You can select a color by right-clicking the color pad, which is located above the drawing canvas. While you're drawing, players can type in chat to try and guess the word, and the first player to guess gets 3 points, while second guessers get 1. There's a total of 16 rounds, which depends on how many players are in the game, and the person with the most points at the end will win. The kits are extra time selector and extra tools, and as far as I know, I'm pretty sure this is based off of some sort of real-life game that might be under the same name. However, I didn't really do any research on this since it's kind of irrelevant, but I feel like it's somewhere. Anyways, it's not even unique as a Minecraft concept. I'm not positive if this is exactly how it works, but I do know there's some sort of a building game on Hypixel, but I haven't exactly been able to say whether it's better or worse or what. However, I do find this one really fun to play, and it's definitely the most unique game on the server because it's not PvP. It's not anything. You literally are just drawing. It doesn't even feel like you're playing Minecraft. But I think that uniqueness gives it its edge against other games on the server. Now, it didn't always have kits, as most of you know. Before, it was just literally basic. You joined, and you played. And I kind of missed that. However, I think the kits have been relatively well developed, and the more I get used to them, I think they're pretty cool. And it does give a little extra edge to the game. Most players don't have the patience to sit through an entire game, which usually ends up in the game resulting in like 10 rounds. But it is still fun to play, and I'd like to see more people get into it if they don't always want to play PvP. In the number 4 spot, we've got Snake, and the main objective of this arcade game is to be the last alive. Go figure, like we haven't seen that one before. You spawn as a sheep, and as time goes on, more sheep will spawn in the line behind you as a snake. As you move, the snake will follow your direction, and if you run into another person's snake, or your own, you die. The kits are Speedy Snake, Super Snake, and the achievement kit Reversal Snake. This is original in Minecraft from what I'm seeing. I don't even know if it exists somewhere in real life, so it's pretty original to me personally. However, there is one downside to this, and that's the fact that there's a low gem reward. I mean, you only get 5 gems for participation. As far as I know, it's the only game that you only get 5 for participation, which is relatively low compared to everything else. It doesn't really make sense why it's any lower, because this game is about as long as maybe Runner or Super Spleef, possibly even. But, I mean, it's still really fun to play. The maps are pretty entertaining, and also, this is the game where I saw Chiss and was able to kill him a few times. That was pretty fun. And now we move on to the top 3, starting with Bacon Brawl. Now this game is definitely one of the most controversial there is on the server, if not the most controversial. All players in this game are morphed as pigs and must do everything they can to knock players out of the map or into lava. They can also use their fists or abilities, and, you guessed it, the last player alive wins. The kits are El Muchacho Pig, Mama Piggles, and quote-unquote pig. Honestly, I think I'm one of those guys that thinks this game is just awesome. I think it is really, really fun to play. I think the concept is definitely unique. The new maps look fantastic. And even though they've changed Baby Piggles to Mama Piggles, I still think the game is really fun to play. Now, I don't know whether the new kit actually made the game shorter or not, because it still seems to be relatively long, and that's the only downside to this. But I personally find it really, really fun to play. I'm not sure, maybe because I just liked playing it when there was still Baby Piggles, but I just find it pretty entertaining, and it's like I said, it's extremely unique. And in the 2 spot, we have Micro Battle, which in my opinion is the best arcade game of Mineplex. And spoilers, you probably all know what's number 1 then. Well, maybe not. Anyways, the description of Micro Battle is that it revolves around 4 teams fighting each other and trying to be the last team alive. Like every other arcade game on here. There's one thing I'd have to say about the arcade games. They are pretty redundant in what the goal is. Each team spawns on a small section of the map separated by lava and has a small structure or house filled with blocks that can be used for cover. As time goes by, the map slowly begins to compress from the outsides, and if only members of one team are left, they win. The teams are red, yellow, green, and blue, and the kits are worker, fighter, archer, all of which are free. Now, it's pretty, you might ask me why I put this game so high, because it's such a basic concept. It literally is basic Minecraft PvP with a couple extra effects. But I think it's executed really well here. I think it just makes it very interesting it's like the only vanilla PvP game on here, if you maybe excluded survival games. But the kits do work really well with each other, and if your team has a few of each, and they also use strategy correctly, then it's a really fun time to play. And this is probably over the entire time that Mineplex stats have existed. That game is the game I have played the most of. It doesn't mean I played it the longest, but it is the most. Now, I have been drawing a bit away from this game, mostly just because, I don't know, I've kind of maybe died out on it a bit, but I really overplayed it for a while, so it kind of makes sense. But it still is really fun for me to play. The map designs, they're really nice. I do like how, on most of the maps, if you exclude seasons, the buildings are all the same, and it's just replaced with different colors for each side. I think that's pretty nice. However, it is also a mini bridges style. I mean, if you think about it, you've got 4 islands, but are really 4 sections of one island. They're separated by lava at the start, or separated by air or water. And then, after a few minutes, or a few seconds, the walls and bridges go down. So, in a way, they're very similar. And I think that's pretty nice, because Bridges is nice, however, it's really, really long. And not everybody has an hour or 30 minutes to play it. Hence, why Micro Battle exists, and why it's my second favorite game. Finally, at the top, we've got Dominate and Team Deathmatch. Both Champions games are equally fun in my mind, and they just beat everything to the top. First, let's start with the descriptions. First, Dominate. This game has 2 teams that have to reach the maximum number of points by killing members of the opposing team, and capturing points by standing on the monuments that are spread out in each map. There are usually 5 monuments, or 3, in each map to be captured by standing on them. You can use one of the 5 classes and its abilities to kill the players. You can always capture monuments that have been claimed by the enemy team, and there is a short respawn delay after death, and the team that has maximum points in the end wins. And Team Deathmatch, like it dominates, you are able to use one of the 5 classes to kill players on the enemy team, and the main objective is just to kill the other team. And whichever team reaches the maximum number of points or kills the other team will win the game. Teams are red and blue. And I really, really love this game. It is definitely by far my favorite of all Mineplex minigames. It's just so well executed and set up. All 5 kits, Brute, Ranger, Knight, Mage, and Assassin, have great abilities. If you know how to use them, they can be really overpowering. The customizations are where this one shines. There's no other game in Mineplex, or really any other minigame server, at least that I've played on. I'm sure Hypixel's got something to beat this, but on Mineplex and probably the Hive all grouped together, this is definitely the best of all of them. It's really got the best customization, and it's got really fun maps to play on as well. However, it can be frustrating if you meet somebody who's overpowered, but hey, I guess that's just trying to make the best class that you can. And I like both Dominate and TDM equally. I think TDM's better if you want to have a shorter game and you would rather just go kill people with the classes. But if you like talking more about skill and strategy, then Dominate's what's right for you. And this is probably one of the few games Mineplex hasn't screwed up in their time of updating. Yes, I know this week they've just released a patch for it. However, I don't think it's really done too much. It may have improved it, it may not have. It's too early for me to tell. I do know that they removed quick recovery, and I'm pretty meh on it. I'm not exactly panicking or praising it. I'm just pretty meh on the whole thing. Amazingly, I don't actually use it, even before it was removed. I checked my kit before they took it out, and I didn't have it there, so obviously I didn't use it. So, otherwise, this is definitely the best game that I've played on Mineplex, and it is definitely the game that I enjoyed from the very beginning when I joined about a year ago now. And let's just hope that they don't mess it up in the future and keep making good maps and updates for it. So there you have it. That is my list of the top 10 Mineplex minigames that there are currently out there. I would just like to start by saying I love playing all of these games. Some of them are more fun than others, but they've all got their own unique edge that makes me want to play them over time and time again. Sometimes they can get frustrating though, but hey, really Minecraft can get frustrating. Any part of Minecraft. You can get frustrated in survival by just dying or finding a frustrating situation with maybe the Ender Dragon. Creative can be frustrating because maybe you can't find out what you want to build. And minigames can be frustrating if there's hackers or better skilled players or just some other random circumstance that you didn't expect. And another thing I've noticed about Mineplex as a whole, and if you watch my update videos, you'll know why I say this, updates to games and the server as a whole, beyond bug fixes, tend to ruin them. Survival games is an example of yes, and Dominate is an example of not. However, Dominate was only a patch, and Survival Games is more of a revamp in my mind. So, I mean, it's kind of meh when they update a game. However, I still think that games without updates could use some refreshing new things. And one of those games I would definitely put on that list is Micro Battle. It has not been touched once since it's been added, and I really think a lot of people play it. It almost might have the biggest following of arcade games on the server right now, which is pretty surprising considering it's not really that original. But other than that, most of the games are in pretty good shape beyond any possible bugs, but you know, I accept that bugs are there and that you can't always get rid of them. And especially when I own my own server, I know how frustrating it can be, and I don't even code. Maybe someday I'll learn. Maybe someday. But that is going to do it for this list of the top 10 minigames, guys. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. And if you did, feel free to share it with your friends, drop a like, subscribe for more, and let me know what you'd like me to do in next episode of Joe Reviews. I understand I've been doing a lot of episodes of this series, but I do have fun recording them, and they're more interesting. I think I like recording them more. This time also, I'd like to point out that I made a bit of a script this time, rather than just going off of my thinking. So hopefully it seemed a bit more organized and a bit more, I don't know, ready, if that's what you'd like to call it. And, well, if you don't, well then, let me know what I can do to improve. If you'd like me to, I can link a copy of the script down below in case you'd like to see it. And if you've got any suggestions for me, let me know, because I'd like to start using scripts more often in my reviews, especially the reviews, because it often makes the videos cleaner and less of a rambling. And also, I'm going to try not to review things while playing in the game, because that's also really, really distracting. But hopefully you guys have enjoyed. This is JoePinko14 signing out. And remember everybody, play Minecraft, and eat bacon, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.